Good evening, everybody. This is the meeting of the Nottingham Planning Board on June 13th, 2018. I now open the meeting. Maybe you start with introductions. Buzz.
Robert Davies, alternate.
Teresa Bascom.
Tony Dumas, Select Board.
Susan Mooney.
Gary Anderson. Joe Clough.
Mr. Davies will be seated for Mr. Ed Beal this evening. For the first order of business, we have a review of private roads with building permit applications, and the permits that have come in are for a building on Hanlon Hill Road / Moores Road, 53 Whites Grove Road, and 41 Shore Drive. All of these roadways are Class 6 or private roads, and the job of the planning board by RSA 674-41 is to review and make comment to send to the Board of Selectmen so they can review the applications at that time. The Board of Selectmen will be meeting and deciding on these 3 applications, and then on Tuesday, these applications will go to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. I do want to just give you an overview of the highlights of RSA 674:41. Number 1, from and after the time when a planning board shall expressly have been granted the authority to approve or disapprove plats by a municipality, no building shall be erected on any lot within any part of the municipality, nor shall a building permit be issued for the erection of a building unless the street giving access to the lot upon which such building is proposed to be placed, D, is a private road or Class 6 road, provided that, and there are 3 items. Number 1, the local governing body, Select Board, after review and comment received by the planning board, has voted to authorize the issuance of building permits for the erection of buildings on said private road or portion thereof. And 2, the municipality neither assumes responsibility for maintenance of said private roads nor liability for any damages resulting from the use thereof. And 3, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall produce evidence that notice of the limits of municipal responsibility and liability has been recorded in the County Registry of Deeds for the lot for which the building permit is sought. And to that point, where the applicant shall provide evidence that notice of the limits of the municipality, we have a document that I will read to you in part, called the Agreement and Release Regarding Building Permit for a Class 6 Highway or Private Road. This will be issued to the applicant either by the land use clerk or the building inspector. And this document, after it's been reviewed by the applicant and signed, will be filed with the Rockingham County of Deeds, with the deed. So the 4 conditions are, number 1, the town shall allow owner to construct a residence pursuant to a building permit issued by the town on the property. Number 2, the town neither assumes responsibility for maintenance, including snow plowing, nor liability for any damages resulting from the use of the road. Number 3, owner shall be responsible for maintaining access to the property and does hereby forever release and discharge the town, its officers, agents, and employees from the obligation of maintaining the road and from any claim of any nature, whether in tort or otherwise, which owner might have against the town for any loss or damage, including those incurred through failure to provide municipal services, including police, fire, and ambulance services arising out of the condition of the road as a Class 6 highway. And number 4, owner assumes responsibility for maintenance and repair of the road, and agrees that at owner's expense or at the expense of the owner and other owners of property similarly located on the road to clear and maintain the road to a width of not less than 20 feet and to repair and maintain the travel portion of the road in a good and passable condition. So I'll pass these so the other members of the board can take a look. So our task tonight is to comment for the select board on issues that we might be concerned about on having houses built on private roads or class 6 roads. So this is a new venture for us.
Point of clarification on these three, are these all three private roads?
Yes.
So we're not dealing with class 6 in any way, shape, or form?
Well, class 6 is a private road.
I thought class 6 was a town road that's not maintained, and a private road is a private road.
Class 5, I think.
They're right here.
I think you can have a class 6 town road
Yeah.
and or private road.
Yeah. The reason why
Oh,
I'm...
it's both
Yes,
of them.
and the
Okay.
reason why I'm asking that is because the statements on here are around the requirements of the owner of a private road to maintain it and bring it to standards, where that's not the case if it's a town class 6 road. We're not required to maintain it, nor is it a private citizen's property to do anything with it. So that's why I want to clarify.
So for the planning board, we can comment about existing conditions of the road, potential improvements to the road, certainty of future road maintenance, and whose responsibility it is, the width and the grade of the road, drainage infrastructure and impact on wetlands, including lakes, recommendations from the planning boards, road agents, or safety officials, and likelihood of future connection to the existing roadwork. Thank you.
Thank you.
So should we gather bullets for the Board of Selectmen?
Yeah, I'm gonna start writing, so.
Oh, okay, you need some paper?
I do have a question. My understanding is that we would need to be looking at each specific permit. So in other words, for the way I'm seeing this, and correct me if I'm wrong, so the first one is, I assume that's a corner lot, possibly Hanlon Hill Road, Moores Road, but a specific permit. And so I think what I would like to be able to see to weigh in on this is the exact location of where it is on this road. And, you know, so that I could see really how that location is going to affect whatever it is.
I had asked the land use clerk that exact question earlier, and she suggested that we just make general comments to make sure that wherever these lots are located, that the width of the road should be at least this. There should be proper structures in place to prevent siltation. There should be some acknowledgement as to who will be taking care of the road. Is that correct?
I didn't get into that kind of detail. However, it's like, basically, the idea is, and we don't want to hold up these three in particular. We're working on coming up with more criteria to guide you guys in the future. The BOS is requesting just general comments right now. But it's basically, do you guys feel that there's anything that you would like to see in place for the road to hold another wetland on that private road? So, and all of these, so that one, and they're all already currently buildable lots. So these aren't new lots or anything like that. They may have no house on them right now. Some of them actually have camps that are being renovated to be full-time dwellings, but they're considered buildable lots. So we
Do they have structures on them now?
A couple
All of them?
do. Hanlon Hill does not.
But that's a lot of record.
It is a lot of record.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're basically here to discuss the road and its access and not the properties themselves.
Right.
We can't talk about whether or not there's going to be drainage for any runoff. We can't talk about the septic system or the wells or any of that. It's simply the road, period, going in and coming out. Like, if the road is in really poor condition, they're going to be adding on another dwelling or a year-round dwelling where it's only summertime now, which will make a difference come spring, come mud season. Is the road wide enough at this point to be having extra traffic going in and out? Is the road sturdy enough to be adding those extra vehicles going up and down it all the time? That's strictly our comments
So for
tonight.
clarification, really the selectmen are asking us to assist them in their process of.
Right.
What to look for.
Okay,
Right,
that's-
because
specific.
we are building that workflow and those criteria now, but, we obviously want planning boards. We've got a list of things that, Chris, took these from our minutes from our last meeting when we discussed it. But are there other things that we should be looking at that we overlooked? In the case of these, 3 properties, obviously, we don't want to be in a position to be, perceived to be changing the rules middle of the game, but of course, things that are required by law, such as that, filing that limit of municipal liability, obviously,
Sure.
that has to be done. I can't say with any certainty how faithfully that's been done in the past, but, we want to build a solid workflow with solid criteria that meets all the requirements of the RSA, that's consistent with our, with state and our regulations and our local ordinances, zoning regulations and so on. And that, it's no small task, but we, as a board, we decided, no, we cannot be out of compliance with the law. We have to do this. So we're, like I said, we are working on that. But we never expected that we would have all that work done before having to review these folks Monday night. So we're still doing the review, just not with as developed a process as we would have liked.
So these bullets have been generated by the select board, and you're
That's
asking
what we
us,
brainstormed, yeah.
and you're asking us to add to these or
Yeah.
refine them?
Add to them, refine them,
Okay.
even without bullet points, but, just any food for thought that you can add to the process is gonna help us out.
I think the hard part is that as you're adding homes onto private roads, it's difficult to say to someone, no, you can't build this year-round house on this lot that was once a campsite, knowing full well that they are gonna have increased difficulties come springtime especially, and then in the wintertime. So we've got to, if nothing else, caution people that those aren't roads we're going to be maintaining. So this is all on you if you want to build on these roads that are really just meant for people coming in and out in the summertime.
Yeah, and that's why, in that, I don't know where it went, but that copy of the, to be filed with the county, I mean, it specifically says that, the town's not liable for any claims of any nature because of, lack of maintenance or failure to provide municipal services, including police, fire, ambulance. I mean, if the road is a mud hole in the spring and public safety can't get through because the road isn't being maintained properly, you can't blame the town for that.
Correct.
So it's been very meticulously spelled out here, So, in a sense, this document helps tell these landowners and road owners what they need to do. What burdens are on their shoulder because of the liabilities, the obligations not being on the town's shoulder.
The other part to that, though, is that oftentimes the people that have a lot on there, they are not the landowner for the road. They don't own the
Right.
road. It may be somebody else that lives on the road, maybe somebody else who lives in another state. So,
They need to get documentation of their, on written documentation of their right to travel that road. That's right.
well, and then we would also need to know at this point with that, who the owner is of the road,
Yeah.
and do they plan to maintain this road
Yeah.
or upgrade it? If we're having like 4, 5, 6, 7, 12 homes on a smaller stretch. I
Well,
mean,
this brings up what I've been thinking about here. What if there's already 5 existing homes on a private road? Or, first of all, to Joe's point, that this new document should spell out private roads as well as Class 6 roads. Should have both terms on there, because they're not exactly the same.
No, they're not, but under the RSA, the requirements for a class 6 may not be exactly the same as a private road in terms of the towns, I mean, we'd have to look into that. But that would require the document to be written differently. So both documents would have to be created and maintained.
The only similarity that I'm aware, well, there's 2 similarities. The fact that it's the town's discretion whether if it chooses on a case-by-case basis to allow or deny building on a Class 6 or private road. And the maintenance requirements in that the liability has to be signed in both cases if it's Class 6 or private. But if it's a Class 6, that's a town road, so private citizens technically can't or shouldn't be required to maintain something that is the town's. And the town isn't required to maintain it either because it's a Class 6. So that's probably a stickier situation than.
Well, thus, being town-owned also means that basically the town automatically has liability should the town allow structure to be built on that road. So, I do have a couple suggestions. One regarding the potential improvements to the road, I'm not gonna give you the exact wording, but what I'm thinking about is, well, is there a plan in place for maintenance or for improvements? And so that may or may not include who's going to do that, how it's gonna be done.
Which is,
That was-
which is what I was getting to, Gary, is especially in the case of private roads. What if there's already 5 existing places that have been there for years and years and years? Nobody's got a maintenance agreement. Somebody owns the road. We may or may not know who that really is. And person 6 comes along and wants a building permit. Well, we're putting the whole onus of maintaining the road on person 6.
No, the road's condition, we would set a standard that we would follow for what the
But
road
who's going to be
condition.
responsible for
The
that?
owner of
The
the road.
private citizen, the citizens on that road would need to figure out with the owner of, because they can't go and improve
How is that
someone
gonna be
else's property.
enforced?
Well, the thing is, the town cannot demand
Right.
the road be improved, but they can ask the question, is there a plan in place? And it may not mean anything. It may not have any bearing on the permit. But
Well, it should have a bearing on the permit, because if there's no way to enforce the fact that the road needs to be improved, then how is it rational for this board to recommend that a building permit be given for?
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think what we would be doing is setting a standard for a certain level that private road needs to attain in order to say that is a condition for us to potentially approve the building permit.
So in other words, the road would have to be improved before the building permit is issued?
I'd have to ask for clarification on that, but I think the purview of the town would be, here are conditions in order for us to say we would approve a building permit.
And is a promise enough?
No, we would want that in writing.
So basically, almost like a bond.
We actually talked about that as well, to have the landowners, the possibility of having landowners take out a bond to ensure that whatever maintenance they promised to do would take place. And if they failed, that bond would be surrendered to follow through on it. So I don't know that we're gonna go in that direction, but that's certainly one of the ideas we talked about.
So you would be thinking of having everybody on that road contribute to the bond for future
Well,
maintenance of the road?
If they're all getting the benefit of it, it's only right. You know, like, sort of like making a homeowner association for their
Right.
private road.
Well, what may happen is, I have a lot, on a private road, I wanna build on it. It may lead me to work pretty hard to talk with the other owners on that lot, on that road, to establish an association of some type.
Right.
Just,
Yeah. The mechanism for creating that agreement between the landowners on that road is up to them.
right.
Whether
We
they
can't-
wanna make a, you know, homeowners association or all chip in on some kind of financial instrument without any type of, you know, binding agreement, whatever, that's up to them, as long as the conditions that were put before them were met.
We certainly can't mandate how they,
Right. Can't tell them how to do it, just certain results, certain conditions need to be met. And as long as they meet them,
The other comment, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, at what point do you say, we're not gonna give you a permit until you can show us that there will be improvements to the road made down the line when improvements need to happen?
well, like I said, we would need to have, any plan that they came up with would have to be submitted in writing. And then the, you know, the road agent, you know, slash public works director, would be the party responsible for monitoring that.
So,
So, can I just throw something out? What happened to emergency ways?
if it's defined as one.
Well, emergency ways are
there,
provide access for emergency vehicles to go help people who happen to live on private roads.
The town has to define which roads are emergency ways.
But I don't
That's also at the
discretion of the.
discretion of the select board.
Correct.
And that's not a mechanism to get people around requirements for maintaining their private roads.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's been done in the past. So we have a lot of private roads that are getting free maintenance from the town that don't even closely meet the requirements spelled out in the RSA. A big one being public benefit to the town. If a road is private and marked no trespassing and there is no public asset or no public benefit to the town maintaining it, it shouldn't be being maintained.
Except they pay property taxes.
That paying property taxes does not automatically give you road maintenance.
right.
No, but I'm saying that's the benefit. And if the road deteriorates to such a point where it's impassable, they can't get a mortgage, they can't get house insurance.
They bought on a private road.
They bought on a
Right,
private
that's
road.
right.
It is not a town-maintained
And that
road.
means they aren't gonna have all of the traffic that the rest of us that have town roads or state roads have. So it's only them on it. They're the ones that have to maintain it.
So regarding the condition of the road, and maybe this would fall under the private ways, or in the case of where the town does any type of maintenance, plowing, let's say, is there area for turnaround for plow equipment, that type of
Right,
language?
right. Those are that's the in the weeds criteria, but yeah, that was one of the ones we mentioned that we discussed. Another one was, and we had actually had this happen, there are some private roads that have like boulders sticking out of the ground and have cracked the snow plows, you know, and that costs us money that we should not be paying, you know? So the things like that, you know, but you're right, turnaround space, adequate turnaround space. I guess the boulders would come under the plane or the grade of the road. You know, you shouldn't have to have a jacked up 4x4 to get through, you know, a particular stretch of road.
So a Class 6 road is a town road that's unmaintained by the town.
Right.
Correct.
So in
We
the
are not
case,
allowed to maintain it. By state law, that if it's a class 6 road, we're not allowed to do
the
anything.
town is not allowed to do anything to it.
That's my understanding.
Right, if it was made that, so that it was possible to maintain it, that would automatically bring it up to
Class five.
class 5.
So, on a Class 6 road, it's not private, so that means that nobody, the town owns it, but the property owners have to maintain it.
No, I don't believe that's the case. I'm trying to think back.
Yeah.
We heard a lot about this.
And I was thinking back to correcting my statement. I think it's not that we're not allowed to maintain a class 6, it's that the second you start maintaining a class 6, I think you were saying that,
You'll
Illness
change
and life.
the status,
yeah.
right?
Sorry, what was your question again? Or comment?
Well, my question is, if it's a Class 6 road, not a private road, whose responsibility is it to maintain it, to keep it up to standards?
It's not, it's an unmaintained road, basically. And if somebody
Well, what,
lives on that road, then they're traveling at their own risk.
It says in A Hard Road to Travel, which is a workshop that many of us have been to, in here describes the different classes. On page 59 of the copy that I have, Class 6 consists of all, quote, all other existing public ways, unquote. RSA 229:5, section VII 7. It includes all highways discontinued, subject to gates and bars, and all highways that have not been maintained and repaired by the town in suitable condition for travel for 5 consecutive years or more. RSA 229:5, section 7, chapter 8 of this book provides a detailed look. It is important to recognize at the outset that Class 6 highways are full public highways in every respect except maintenance.
so again, my question is, whose responsibility is the maintenance of those roads?
Any gates and bars maintained by private landowners cannot be erected as to prevent or interfere with public use of the highway.
So we're
doesn't
really
sound-
discussing private roads, we're not discussing Class 6.
Right.
Because we have very few Class 6 roads in Nottingham. There's French Road off 156 going
Right,
toward
that's-
Epping. There's a little piece of Guile that's been discontinued, in the back of that fellow's craft thing. And then there's another one somewhere, but that's it for our Class 6.
And
So
to that point,
This needs to be changed to say private
I
roads.
made a note of it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, that's what I was trying to get to.
and again, just to
there.
clarify, it's not that the
But thank
town
you for-
can't, but the town's not required. As soon as something falls into class 6 status, the town isn't required to do the routine maintenance that it would be on a class 5, where if the town doesn't, there's liability, that sort of thing.
So Class 5 is a private road?
No, class 5 is any town road that's
The
not
town
a
road.
state
Any town
highway.
road,
Yeah,
okay. Is there a classification for private?
Just
No.
private.
Private.
Okay,
Private, yeah.
well, that helps. I wanted to just make a comment that Gary talked about potential improvements to the road, big turnarounds for cars and things like that. If the town does remove snow for these people, what's the possibility of sending bills to the people that live there for snow removal?
I mean, how would
Just a
you,
thought.
how would you compute that? What is the cost of removing snow?
Well, If,
By depth or by how much
Frequency.
frontage they have?
if we're not gonna maintain private roads for some people in town, why are we maintaining private roads for other people
I
in town?
think the reason, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the way it's happened is it's the emergency ways mainly that are maintained like that. And so in that case, the town has accepted them as emergency ways and
Yeah.
chooses basically to maintain them in some way.
Private roads are right here.
It would seem to me that if these were private roads, the town would need permission to do that.
And
That's part of the point.
That would have happened when the town deemed them emergency ways.
In some cases, designation being granted. say, for example, back in 1989, the road was designated an emergency lane, because some fellow lived at the end of it who was an oxygen. He wanted to keep an avenue of medical services to use it, and all kinds of things, but nobody's gone back and checked. And to this day, we're still following that rule.
So that brings another point. Really, they need to look at it and maybe re-accept it, or.
So, two comments with, as it pertains to the requirements here, I think the comment would be worth making sure that these folks understand the limitations if they were to build on a private road. The fact that maintenance is not something that's gonna happen. And also for them to be familiar with emergency lanes, I've got some notes here, any single abutter on a private road can decline that emergency lane status, so their neighbors could say, I don't want anything to do with the town doing anything to the road, and that can stop any clearing on the road. But it's,
Doesn't matter.
yeah.
If there's one no vote,
That's it.
that's it.
correct. And that would be,
Make sure you love your neighbor.
any deeded property that has access to that private road, that would be part of that easement, I think. And emergency lane status doesn't obligate town maintenance either.
Correct.
It's just to allow it's basically the private landowner saying, we are allowing you to do things to provide emergency access, but it's not.
So Tony, what do you want here? Do you want specifics, or are these just general?
Those are just general
templates?
topics. And honestly, I don't even know what question to ask on each of those. I don't have the experience that the rest of you do. But yeah, condition of the road would be things like width and, and grade. And, are there boulders poking through? Is there turning space? Is there adequate overhead clearance from trees and other obstruction?
How about anticipated additional homes along that road?
Well, then any future homes would also have to meet the same criteria.
Right.
You know. It's not an individual landowner's concern to make sure that the road is adequate for future
future.
applicants. Right.
Maybe something to take under advisement. We heard some stories of this at the Hard Roads Conference we went to. The last one, likelihood of future connection to existing road network, it might be worth reviewing if that road network connects to another town where they may improve their side of the road up to the town line, and then you get a house right there, and now we've got potentially a town issue because we come in from the other way.
Like Ledge Farm.
We heard nightmare stories
Yes.
on that one.
Yeah.
Elaine Cooper.
And also Cooper Hill, too.
So likelihood of, how did you say?
If that road network extends into a neighboring town, maintenance activity by the neighboring town may change the dynamic and some of the implications of approving building permits on our side of it.
Might be able to call it regional,
Regional impact.
yeah, something, yeah.
Did you say likelihood of becoming a town road, an approved road in the future?
Or the changes in traffic patterns, other things like that, that could impact the condition of the road on our side of the border.
This is not exactly buttoned to this particular task tonight. But in the transportation subcommittee, we had discussed maybe putting up signs of a different color to let people know that they live or are passing by a private road. For example, in some towns, like in Raymond, the private roads are in red background,
Yeah.
white lettering, and PBT sometimes appears.
Don't they, the road that goes down to the park, Pawtuckaway, there's red signs on that road. Is that the Raymond section?
That's a Raymond.
That
Yeah.
is, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
And so we had that discussion also at the conference we attended, and one of the things came up pertaining that, it was pretty good. There was a lot of give and take on that subject, and one of the things though was about emergency calls and being able to, for emergency folks to be able to easily spot that road. That's one reason to have those private road signs.
Up in Maine, you have a long driveway, and your house is not visible from the road. Your driveway is in Maine. So emergency vehicles coming down and say, oh yeah, that's Jones Road.
Makes sense.
Any other comments, Tony?
Is there anything you missed from Ed's?
He made a lot of suggestions, but they weren't ZBA.
Yeah, we can really only comment on road lines.
It's the only one that I found that did not apply strictly to ZBA was the applicant to confirm who owns the road and who's responsible for maintenance. And they have deeded access to traverse the road or property.
That's possible, because not all private roads.
commented that applicant should provide a copy of the easement or deed with the language that the lot has the rights to access. So that was,
That one and
Applicant confirm, number one, who owns the road, number two, who's responsible for maintenance, and number three, they have the access to the road.
next page.
well, I have that, but it doesn't.
That's because she printed that one off. Right?
Oh, I see. Owns the road is responsible. All right, that's pretty much the same as what Dirk said, yeah.
Ensure access and classified.
Yeah, the septic system thing, I mean, the board's concern is really the road.
Correct.
Well, that's all we can. Rich, can we move on? Have a second to pass tonight?
I got some good words.
The second item on the agenda tonight is to review the request to change continuation date for case number 18002 SUV, the subdivision of our review for. We had asked for an earlier date than the one in August. And we have to go on, agree to continue this date to July 11th.
This is the one where they're gonna drop the number of lots down?
And they will discuss it.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanna make sure we're talking about the same
Yeah.
piece of property.
Does that give us enough time to receive like the fully completed plans with 2 weeks?
They need to submit plans 2 weeks prior to here. And it was recommended by Mr. Neal that we do a site walk on June 27th.
park safely.
The car
There is where
There's
that
dirt turnout with the
trailer used to
geocache
be.
is.
There was a trailer on the property.
Actually, my recollection's right. Nottingham Apartments Road used to come down, and there's a fairly good-sized spot where that road was discontinued.
Yeah,
There's a corner there where you
that's where
probably,
that dirt turnout is.
you can probably park 4 cars right there.
I'm around the corner, I'll take the motorcycle.
It's probably parking at the Nottingham Apartments, actually, too.
I think, yeah, I'd like to move the June 11th extension for July 11th, 7 PM. Case number 18-002-SUB-
Second.
Motion for the site walk?
So we'll consider a meeting.
On this one.
We'll see.
We also have 2
I move that, have a site walk. How do we name the property? All right, I move that we have a site walk on June 27th at 6 PM, case number 18-002-SUB-
He said 6 PM. Second.
Aye.
I won't.
Poison ivy.
Right.
Poison ivy and ticks.
Ticks are heavy.
Yeah.
Wear hiking boots.
So the next item of business is to identify zoning ordinance edits and additions to adjust for the March 2019 town meeting.
Actually, don't we need,
By that point, shouldn't we have plans?
Really is a big town.
We're gonna be out there seeing it. We'll have that anyway.
Yes, but I think to see how it fits on
Edits. Just did edits for the ZO. These are all things we discussed at the last meeting, correct?
These were recommendations from Russ, ZBA.
Well, my suggestion for, after being on the board for a number of years, is that this much change is going to end up taking a whole lot of our time with a lot of backtracking unless we bring a plan.
Unless we use scrap.
In our budget, we have planning money. There are people that are professionals that can take these suggestions and come forward with suggested ways for us to do it. And then we can review those suggestions, change it to our liking, instead of trying to work this out from scratch. Have a different group of people here each meeting asking what happened the last time, or where are we going from here?
Just question on the planner budget and my lack of understanding around the master plan work. Have we ever brought a planner in to help with any of the master plan updates?
Yes.
And is there enough budget to do both?
Well, the master plan is an update and not a whole rewrite, which I don't think it's gonna be as extensive as the CO is. And then with this, we're trying to write everything that we have. So it all says the same thing, including definitions and stuff, so I see where his.
We used a planner.
The way this would work is if we agree that this is the way to proceed, then we pick out a planner and we give him this list and he gives us an estimate. So then we don't have to commit it to anything until he shows us on the plan.
And with the master plan,
Same thing.
it's just an update in this case where we did use a planner last time, but that was a complete revamp.
And I think maybe jobbing out the chapters, like give the Historical Society the historical chapter, and giving infrastructure, fire, police, school, give them those chapters, and they can rework their sections in that. And we're only gonna be doing maybe 3 a year anyway, so we might not need that. And if we don't convene until the fall, we still have the next year to maybe consider that in the
True.
budget.
Right. If we run into a roadblock or something, it would be very easy at that point to say, let's get a planner involved. But I think to bring one in up front, when we don't yet know the workload.
When would these need to be moved forward?
We definitely need language and everything ready for ballot by December.
I have a question. At what point does it become so overwhelming to the voters that they go, I can't stand this, this is too much? No, 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 no.
I was wondering the same thing. Have
You
we
know,
ever
there's-
had that many edits
Oh,
on the
yeah.
ballot?
There is a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
stuff here.
Yeah.
We all got canned.
So the
It's just too
voters
much.
won't see everything. They'll
Okay.
get a snap of what is being proposed and then a link when they get the newsletter. And when they go to our town website, they'll get a link to the full language change. Can I give my input of what I really think needs to be done to make things easier in my office? Really need setbacks clearly defined, so we really need those to be in charts.
Okay,
That one's huge.
Yep.
ADUs is really huge.
yeah,
for-
ADUs, yeah.
For, the building inspector. Those are
Septics,
the big two. If I had to choose just two out of all of those, that would be it.
But that, again, most of that is clarification in the way our regulation is written right now. It's too wishy-washy and can be interpreted in too many different ways. And again, that's why I think we need a professional to help us write this.
I don't disagree, and the other reason why I suggest that we do go professional, is we already have a conflict between our zoning ordinance and our site plan regulations on multifamily huge conflict. And it's gonna be coming before you guys soon, to determine which direction we go. So, we've already messed up. Do we wanna keep messing up, or do we wanna do this right from the get-go?
No, let's do it.
Yeah, let's get it.
We're a
so it
volunteer
works.
board. We need a professional to do this.
Yeah, I agree.
How long would that take, do we think?
Well, I think we can find out from the planner that gives us a cost estimate, but will
Yeah,
also
time
estimate time.
Yeah, that,
Because as soon as, if, let's say we find the ones that we want to approve, we approve them, those are active until the March meeting, and then they can be confirmed or denied by the town, correct?
They're only active a certain amount of time, and I can't remember when, which is why we wouldn't be able to issue a building permit at all, if it hit any of the things that are being changed. We wouldn't be able to say, you can go with this until that's definitely voted on. So it kind of puts things in limbo for a bit.
Right.
So we want that to be as short as
Right,
possible,
which is
okay.
why they say don't start putting things before the public until December time period.
Okay.
but that doesn't mean we can't get all our work done ahead of time.
Oh, we have
Well,
to.
yeah, definitely, it would be really beneficial to get stuff knocked out
Mm-hmm.
as soon as possible.
Okay.
And it's not, the charts are kind of a big thing, but it's not too much to worry about putting on the ballot, and, I mean, we've got to put it on the ballot, required-wise, but language-wise, not a huge deal. The ADU, a lot of that's done for us in the law,
Yep.
so, and we just need to get our zoning ordinance to reflect that. And it's not on here, but I recommend that we get the multifamily unit stuff fixed. That wasn't something that we caught until this came to me in the office, so.
The stuff, the ADU stuff that you said's already in the RSA,
Yeah, the RSA talks a lot about our ADU regulations, and we just not reflecting some of that,
wouldn't that supersede anything that we have if we're less stringent?
but we're more stringent.
Okay,
Right, so there's one thing regarding
that's right, it was the
that,
square footage issue, yeah.
that, I don't know if we've actually, maybe you know, Joanna, whether the planning board has actually really made the decision to, you can look at this as a special exception, as an ADU, when you're looking at ADUs, or just allow it through the building inspector to approve it, so something, and that is in the RSA, as a choice for the town to make,
Okay,
or planning board to make, really, I
I
think.
didn't catch that, okay.
So that'll come up.
Yeah, definitely. And those are the kind of things that the planner would already know to bring to us anyway.
So, we've, I think, used Jack Meddy,
Yeah.
Stratford Regional, and I don't know, any other planners that I don't think we've used anyone else.
No?
Do you want me to start, just to get quotes from both of them? and then
That
go
would be a
from
good
there?
start.
Yeah.
Yep, that sounds like the way to go.
Okay.
Did we want to talk about who lives in these ADUs? Can we restrict them to family and friends, or Airbnb?
The RSA does pretty much tell you that. I don't think you can specify, but
But you can specify length of time, no less than 6 months, and that would take care
all
of
that kind
the
of thing. maybe.
Airbnb sort of thing, which I'm not against, because it offers the opportunity for people to earn income to help pay their taxes, but yet it might be an extra burden on the community.
How?
Yeah,
Emergency ways, or,
If it's a dwelling that's been approved, it's not really, I mean, you'd be expecting people to be living in there.
but it would be, if it was gonna be for tourism, you would have extra traffic. If people come in for a weekend, or people come in for 2 weeks, and
I don't see how
There's
that's
also
any
a
different from
benefit
somebody
to
else
that.
being there.
just noise and,
one of the benefits that I wouldn't have thought about it until recently my wife and I are looking for a place to live because we're gonna be building. And so that was one of the things we thought of, is an Airbnb just for 6 months for.
I think
the
they're very,
time.
very convenient, but it was something that I was thinking about, and I thought you might like to think about it too.
One caveat, I think, I tend to agree with you on that, but one caveat would be with Airbnbs, you have people that are not familiar with the property, they're not familiar with the fire safety features. There are towns that actually have, for rentals and things of that nature, different standards for fire safety, like requiring sprinklers and things like that, if it's not used as a residence.
Yeah, that would be something for the
I don't know if
fire
that's not in our purview, I don't think, but.
But that's a good thought.
Well, I think if somebody wants to be utilizing their ADU for something like that, that would be something to be upfront about, so that we can look at, well, if it's not strictly residential and you are having transit people coming in and going, then these are the additional requirements for it. But I think to say right off the bat that we want to exclude that is,
The other way to do it, though, Teresa, would be to treat all
ADUs.
ADUs as commercial. Because they basically are. You're basically building a rental property onto your house. Whether you actually rent, or you let your son, or you let your grandmother live there, that's your decision. But it's still, if we treat it all one way,
I think that's also maybe what led to, in the RSA, that the language of the town's option, if they choose to use it as a consider it as a special exception, because then you really get to look at the details, more so maybe than if the building inspectors,
would automatically happen, particularly if the unit is not being built in a commercial zone.
right?
Yeah.
Anyway, these are things we'll probably get into.
Yes, when we get into the discussions.
So what are we gonna tackle? ADUs, setback charts, and multifamily, or no?
Yeah, I think we ought to put, though, you ought to add the multifamily to this list that we have here.
Okay.
And get the quote based on this list. We can, if it's too much, and the quote's too high, then we can start whittling it down.
Oh, yeah, actually, I understand what you're saying now, because we're getting a quote for changing everything. It doesn't necessarily mean that everything's gonna go before the voters in March. Okay.
Correct.
Right.
It's not-
So
And
what
it-
about prioritizing the list before you send it over?
Right?
Multifamily, ADUs,
Setbacks.
setbacks, and charts or paragraphs.
Mr. Veal had a few on his as well.
Oh,
that
yes,
we
he did.
probably, and they're not on this list, but they're things we've discussed.
And Joanna, can they be also, or somebody do, even if it's not the planner? I do think we need to take out that grandfathered that's listed on here.
Yeah.
And have that be the non-conforming. I don't think we want to forget that. It also mentions steep slopes
And the setback for the driveway.
on the
from-
driveway.
Yeah. I like the 20 feet.
And steep slopes, we already have language on it, it's just a matter of fixing it in our zoning ordinance.
Yeah, and getting it to fit in.
And the Route 4 stuff.
Yeah, rezone Route 4.
Oh, right, the zoning.
And that was a big one that we're.
Yes.
in the town administrator.
Is it possible to present two separate things to the town, like a bunch of these building requirement ones, and then the Route 4 zoning as a separate one?
Could that be presented as a warrant article at town meeting as opposed to on the ballot?
Well, it has nothing to do with money. Usually the stuff that comes on Saturday is, they are money issues. And the other ones are just yes, no.
I'm just thinking because it has it kind of stands separate from some of these, and it's kind of a character of the town thing. Do people,
And if you have two separate things, one could get voted up and the other one could get voted down.
Right.
And we wouldn't lose everything.
Well, what about if we have that as part of the master plan and work it in that way?
we'd need it in both though, right? We'd need the zoning update and master plan to reflect that. Or-
Right, we will end up needing both, but what I'm saying is if we work it through the master plan and see, because we're gonna have John Q. Public's input on all of that, and if that's what they end up, if it ends up working out, if those go that way, then we could even put it on next year. It doesn't have to be this year, but we at least have the feel for it.
I think steep slopes is already in the older master plan as an action item.
Right, I think we're talking about Route 4.
I don't remember that.
I think the only-
that's recent.
The only concern there, and not providing any opinion one way or the other, I think the reason why we wanted to get the Route 4 stuff in front of the voters is only because the potential for a lot of that going residential, and if people want the tax income in commercial, we'd probably do it
Yeah,
sooner rather than
if
later.
we're ever gonna have a Nottingham business district, it's gonna be Route 4.
Yeah.
But
I
also-
like the idea, getting a kind of test balloon with the master plan, but that might take too long.
But also with steep slopes, as we get into more marginal properties that people are looking at to develop, I think the sooner we attack that,
True.
the better.
Oh, I wasn't thinking about steep slopes. I was thinking strictly about the Route 4
Okay.
piece on that. I think that steep slopes still needs to be
Those are two biggies.
part of it, yes,
Yeah, and the rest is mostly just tweaks, I think.
yes,
Clarifications.
Yeah.
yes.
But we
Yeah.
don't want the language, we don't want to tweak it and have the language be wrong.
Right.
Right.
Something to consider with Route 4 rezoning, I'm thinking about setbacks. We want to build in buffers, right, so that the existing residential neighborhoods aren't butted right up against, some type of commercial facility. So we'd want like a 50, 100-foot buffer, woodland that
Tree,
isn't touched,
yeah.
trees, so that there's a visual and a noise barrier between, the commercial operation and the residential neighborhoods.
Yeah, also lighting. That's a
And
big thing.
light pollution, at night,
That actually is something that Raymond did, going toward Chester. They have an area where it's zoned commercial on the road, and then residential offset back a ways.
Didn't we talk at one of the past few meetings about, lighting regulations, making the lights that aim down and not out?
Right.
There's,
Dark sky, that was
yeah,
it.
if you go to the Nottingham webpage, there's some links to those recommendations, pictures and verbiage about that. Particularly, Tony, has there been any discussion about putting more lighting out in our parking lot?
Oh, that's one of our
So,
topics,
It's funny,
because of some incidents out there, and,
well, it's funny that the school is lit up like, I don't know, what's
Like
the
an
word call it?
airstrip?
Yeah, like an airstrip, and then the town area here is dark. It's crazy.
And here is where people are at night.
Most of the time at night, exactly.
Yeah.
Like the school could have like half of those maybe.
Yeah, we're not
for us-
budgeted
Some
for,
of them, yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good idea.
Yeah, we're not budgeted for lighting in the parking lot this year, but we're gonna work it in for next year,
I hope
if
so.
I understand correctly. I'll check with Chris on that.
Okay.
I think it's a next year item.
It needs to be here and the library, to be honest with you. Because we've had near misses when we've had some evening shows.
Yeah.
And people have been parked across the street.
Oh.
There's not enough lighting.
But the library lot is lit, isn't it? Aren't there like 3 or 4 lights there?
There was a couple, but there isn't enough to show for the parking areas or for across to
Okay.
highlight across the street.
I thought there were a couple of poles in
There are for the walkway.
Right, but in the parking lot itself?
I don't remember how many are there. I'd have to look.
So are we ready to move on?
Yes.
Yes.
The next bullet item, review of aquifer district map, and I see that we have an image in our folder. Did you talk with Kyle about color background, Joanna? Like remove that yellow?
Yeah, it's removed.
Oh, I just said black
We
and
have
white.
black and
They're
white.
black and
We have
white.
black and white.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can we pass that around?
Yeah, absolutely, I'm sorry, I forgot. New machine, I'm trying to remember to.
But this is the same layout as all of our other maps, is that correct?
We
Good.
did do that. And I've got a note to make sure that he edits the title of it. So,
Okay, I saw that, yes. And then there was a comment of Ed, from Ed,
title.
The title change.
something about
And then-
depth too.
Yep.
Yeah, saturated thickness.
Yep. He said he's impartial to keeping or removing it.
Yeah.
Because it's for only one aquifer.
One pole in the street, no light. The nearest one is over here, but that's a walkway lamp. So,
We have our roads here, Joe. You see down here, we have our roads,
Oh, yeah.
class 6 and then private.
I can't tell what's what because of,
No, I
but
can't
yeah, it's great.
read the color.
The color difference, even on the color map, the
This-
shading differences.
These two are different. They're hard to
Well,
just,
it's like dark blue, medium blue, and purple.
and then what are these two
Yeah.
colors?
To my eyes, gray, and yellow.
Yeah, two.
Maybe some nice neon colors would make it pop.
Joanna, I can't tell, but are the roads that go through these aquifer districts, are they all labeled?
upper right-hand corner, there should be a
Oh,
table.
good, okay. Oh, good, that'll work.
And they're alphabetized? Yep.
Yeah, it appears to be.
That's something we should keep in mind, if any subdivisions or anything pop up within the district, we'll have to update that table.
Yeah. And then that,
New roads pop
that's a
up.
3-acre minimum size with a lot too.
Do you have the electronic version of this?
I have it right here.
You email it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I didn't email it to y'all?
No,
You may have.
I didn't see it.
Addendum?
So, with the name update, the zoning and the map name are the same, or will be the same. That doesn't have any legal impact in that we refer to it as aquifer protection district versus an overlay district from how that's applied, right? That whole section in the zoning is an overlay district, but then we call it the aquifer protection district. I just want to make sure that we don't have a hole there.
So it's referencing the map in that section of zoning. What is it you read? I don't remember. off the top.
The section number,
What's that?
are you looking for the section number?
What it references for the
It-
title of the map.
It omits overlay in the,
Okay. So I think that would only be, the only legality portion is just the
making sure that
title
those
of
two are
map.
the same.
Mhm.
Okay.
So this title would have to be changed? Is that what you're?
That's Ed's suggestion, and that's the only
Oh,
difference,
okay.
yeah. So if you strike overlay out of the map title, then it's the same.
Aquifer protection district.
Okay, I understand.
Yep.
And does the board agree about removing the saturated thickness data?
If it's only for one and not for the rest of them, I don't see where it makes a whole lot of difference.
No, I would take it out, it's not consistent.
Right,
It doesn't add any value to the,
No.
what the
No.
map represents. so,
exactly.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Buzz, are you all set with that?
Yep.
It looks good, Joanna. Thank you.
You're saying it looks good, but I heard that we wanted to have brighter or more distinctly different colors on it.
Well, it's hard to tell in a smaller format, maybe when it gets blown up. Can you just check with Kyle on that? The different, down in the key, under roads, even with the little, looking at the little color things, it's hard to distinguish the colors between class 5 and class 6.
I've got the blown up portion here, if you guys want to come and take a peek.
Yeah.
and then see.
Sure.
Put it on the projector.
Probably,
Get up and walk around anyway,
yes,
Yeah.
it's time to do that.
after an hour.
Yeah, see the bottom three? To me, it looks like gray, light gray,
So
and
it's,
then the yellow that's so pale, it's almost indistinguishable. It's all
yeah, solid gray dashed and then the pale yellow, which is consistent with what we have on the walls too, actually. So I can request it to be different, or we can stick with it.
It's at, you're only 66%, so whatever the printable size is.
That's, yeah, that's,
Yeah, if you go to 100%, just so we can see that. That's good, then you might not have pixels either. They don't.
As long as it looks like
The
that.
dashed and the solid doesn't look different to you, Steph?
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I'm standing back here, like walking by it as if it was on the wall. I wouldn't be able
I
to
don't see
distinguish.
a lot of difference.
Oh, I can see the dashes now.
I can see them, but it's not.
How about separate the dashes?
How about changing the color and brightening them all up?
That was my note was brighter or more distinctly.
So in other words, instead of just a pale yellow, a real yellow, isn't it? Because there's no background to interfere with it now.
Okay.
Or
Or a
orange?
darker orange that would stand out a
Right.
little boldly.
Yeah, and the not maintained one should be.
That would be my recommendation, is that we take those three bottom
Yeah, the
rows
three
and
few.
and bring some more color.
Okay.
That's good.
More than that.
Pop.
Is this something we can conditionally approve?
That would be great.
The official recommendation of the board is that it needs to pop.
And then one large one for the wall. And depending on the budget, I might send out to you guys a request for permission to purchase another frame for it, because we don't have one for several of them, but I think this is one that we really should have on the wall. So, just FYI, that will be coming to you.
Do we laminate them? I haven't really looked.
They have a
No, I have a
cover.
whole bunch stacked, and not a whole bunch, but I have several that are stacked, unframed, unlaminated, that are just sitting there collecting dust.
We probably should consider laminating to protect them a little bit more.
Okay.
If that's
IKEA has
feasible.
frame kits. You cut the rails to your own length and there's metal clips for the corners.
Okay,
You do the work of custom framing without hiring a custom framer.
okay.
Will they look like the ones on the wall?
I have one at home, they're basically that semi-gloss black finish with a thin plastic
Oh, so it has a cover.
membrane over, yeah.
Yeah,
So they're
yeah.
very similar to what's out there. Gotcha. I'd look at one before you buy it to be sure, but it's an option.
Okay.
But also in anticipation for our 300s, it'd be nice to get the historical society ones up. You know, the cemeteries and historical houses.
Right.
People do like to look at the maps when they're waiting for the town clerk.
They do.
Actually, my wife and I were doing that tonight.
Yeah,
The one that has the inset of all the buildings that used to be at Demon's Corner,
oh, yeah.
the pub, the library, all that.
Yeah, that's
we
cool.
were checking that out.
And we have several that are rec department focused that are just sitting too. I don't know if it's maybe something that the board wants to give to the proper departments, like the historical ones, give them, and they want, even though the planning board paid for them, to be done. I don't know if that's something to discuss maybe in another meeting, but FYI, they're just sitting.
Yeah, they should be there for the public to see. That's my personal opinion.
Well, maybe we can look at other places to be putting them then, because you can't fit all of them out in that hallway.
Right.
No.
You know, like the meeting rooms or something like that. But, and definitely not in the gym, they get ruined, but
No, no,
the
no,
meeting,
yeah.
the meeting rooms, you could.
Are
put them
these
up in
rooms
there.
open to the public during the day?
No, but they are,
Maybe town clerk, maybe one or two in the selectman's office, business office.
Yeah, they ought to be in places that people can see them
Yeah.
during
well, I was
business
thinking
hours,
meeting rooms, people would be seeing them.
Yeah.
but only if they're here for a meeting.
That's a good incentive.
You know, you might be right, Joe.
Maybe even at town meeting, bring a couple.
Yeah.
Up on easels or something.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So you don't need a vote from us, just a general consensus for the aquifer map?
I agree, yeah. No vote necessary.
Okay. Master plan update subcommittee, add language, I think that's the last document in your packet.
It is. I think it looks good.
Yeah, I do too. And I did put something in the newsletter about recruiting people from the community for this.
I think that's a good idea. Was a good idea.
Okay, so that's good too.
Looks good.
That's good.
Yep.
Yeah, very good.
Alright, we'll get those posted then.
We have no members of the public here, although I'm sure people are watching from home. We'll go around the table to see if anybody has any contributions. Buzz?
I actually have a question tonight for Tony. Route 152 is paved now. Has the arrangement to narrow the lanes?
Yes, that has been communicated to them. We haven't heard back yet. But worst case scenario, we'll know when they start painting.
Yes, we will.
Yes, but Chris has, you know, he sent them the letter, and he's followed up with a couple of phone calls, and the individual he's expecting to hear back from has not contacted him as of yet. Last time we heard, which was a couple days ago, maybe Friday. And he's out, so I can't check with him until he gets back.
Squeaky wheel.
Yeah. But yeah, that was communicated to them that we, so.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, Teresa?
Let's hope.
No, I'm good. Everything I had to discuss, we talked about the, you know, the criteria for the building permits. That was a big topic for us at our last meeting.
So no big news from the Conservation Commission. Gary?
Next quarterly meeting for Stratford is coming up, so I've been pretty good about making those, so I'm gonna make that one. That should be soon.
Okay, Joe?
Just a follow-up comment on, and this is by no means to influence the state on their decision to paint the lines differently, but I think it's impressive that they were able to get the road done as quickly as they did. That was, in a matter of a couple days, it's all there, so.
And how long is that stretch total? From Route 4 down to 125, how long?
About 11 miles?
I thought it was 7.
Maybe including Lee, the Lee stretch?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
part
thought it
of
was
it's, part of
7
it's
from
Lee.
here to Route 4, and then it's 4 miles from here to 125.
But, yeah, but that's including Lee.
Yeah.
That's including Lee. I think the,
Oh, that's
The
true.
bridge
yeah,
is the town line.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true. So
Anyway, that was impressive.
it was.
Yeah.
And there was minimal holdups really, because I, being retired, have been in and out while they've been paving. And there's really hasn't been much holdup at all. They've been very good about it.
they have a lot of
They
equipment
sat
out
in
there too.
traffic for 20 minutes.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I
it
did
wasn't any problem for me.
I did see a couple unhappy
But I wasn't
people.
going out at the school time, start of school either.
It's better that for a couple days than the course of a month that some roads take, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
So moving on, we have the minutes from May 9th. I don't think that they are in our packets.
No, because I sent them out to you all and I didn't get any more comments.
Okay, I do have May 9th in front of me, and I just want to double check. On line 5, there were 2 Blaisdells. The second one got purged,
Let me pull it up.
May 9th.
Because I'm pretty sure I sent that one to you. Yeah, that one's done.
Okay. And I don't remember, although it was a while ago, on May 23rd. But you did get comments in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll entertain a motion for both of those minutes.
Madam Chairperson, I move that we approve the minutes of May 9th and May 23rd, 2018 as edited.
Second?
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by raising their right hands.
Aye.
Unanimous.
And who seconded? I'm sorry.
Gary?
Gary.
I did.
Anything else we should discuss this evening?
No.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is, meeting is adjourned.